our neighborhoods that 50% of adult South Africans are considered overweight or obese.
Yes, indeed. These are the implications that came out of the survey which we have conducted, of which the survey itself was commissioned by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. You are correct. Those are the implications that have come out of this survey.
And what were some of the key findings from this National Food and Nutrition Security Survey?
Allow me to put into a broader perspective as to what actually we were requested to do out of this survey. Having said that, I would like us to go back a little bit backward.
Okay.
Of where we come from. You will recall that prior to 1994, I can say that there were distinct food systems that were existing in the country. Distinct in the sense that we were having the homelands and the self-governing states and the main South Africa. And in those, we call subsystems, there were very much high agricultural activities that were cushioning the household from hunger. You will agree with me. And then come democracy, and after 1994, the South Africa actually just merged these systems. And then we ended up saying that we have a one South African food system. With taking into considerations as to how people were living and how people were producing food. Bearing in mind that South Africa is a culturally diverse country, of which also the diet is diverse. I must say that that was the first step or the first assumption which the country did. So after 1994, then the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Fisheries, and all those departments that were responsible to make sure that we eat something at the end of the day, developed programs. But they were never sure if these programs are impactful enough in terms of ensuring that people really get healthy food. Hence the indications in terms of stunting, wasting, and even, the narration that people are really hungry out there were happening parallel to what the government was attempting to do. Therefore, the government commissioned this in-depth, first of its kind, first in-depth survey at a household level, where we were expected to determine as to whether households are really hungry. So they gave us a very clear objective that we need to provide a baseline assessment for the food and nutrition security at a household level. So we went there visiting the areas that we predetermined using the global positioning system. And in the household, actually, we were looking at 3 respondents: the head of the household, the caregiver, somebody who prepare and cook food, and then the children, or from which we extracted data for nutrition component. As you know, children are the ones who actually are the reliable indicator of the status of the family. So when we were doing that, coming to what you have asked me as to what is it that we actually uncovered. Number one, I can say that the issue of land availability for agricultural practice has really declined, of which, again, the driver behind that, probably you may agree with me, that the settlement patterns, especially in rural areas, have changed drastically. We have seen a concentration of people or aggregation of people around the areas where they can access water, electricity, and all those kind of services. So the land they use to resettle is the land that previously used to be used for agricultural purpose. So that on its own has brought some change in terms of uncertainty as to whether the household can be assured that they will have food, because they are no longer producing food themselves.
Yeah.
And then we pick up the heavy reliance on the access to food through supermarkets. We have a lot of them. And some are also now crouching in into the rural areas.
Yeah.
So basically, people are no longer producing food.
And Prof, would with the context that you've just outlined for us, would that speak to what you mentioned in the article is saying that SA has undergone a nutritional transition over the past 30 years?
Fully agree. I agree with you. And that's why there is this, they call it the triple bottom line problem, where at a country level, it is even there are evidences that South Africa is food secure, but at a household level is food insecure, just because of the reasons that I've outlined, and also again the heavy reliance on the social grant. We find that it's a critical factor that allows the household to access food, but because the social grants are limited, then that's when people buy whatever they can afford and afford to eat, not necessarily because of the nutrition value of that food.
I got you. Now, I also read that with this survey, there was close to 100 indicators that were used to compile the report. And what were some of those key indicators, if you can loop us in?
Certainly, the most critical one, of which I think you will agree with me for a diverse country like South Africa, is a demographic information. It is very important that when we release the results, they must also include the participation of all the races in South Africa. So under that, we were checking and ensuring that households are the households where you can find all races, in the sense that the houses that we visited, we predetermined them. So suppose it's a household where you find that it's a certain race that stays there. We work hard to make sure that we persuade those races to participate. So the critical one is the demographic representativity, and secondly was to check the age of the household heads, because it's very important. And you won't believe it, that an interesting result that we find out of that most of the household heads now here in South Africa are people of the age between 54 years downwards. People who are heading the household. And then also we went on to look at what we call the anthropometric measurements. Over there, we carry the scales, and then when we find a child in the household, we will have them to weigh them, measure the circumference of their heads, and all other organs of the body that are used to determine the body mass index. And then among the adults, we will measure the hips, the stomach, the circumference of the stomach, and so on and so forth. But basically, those are some of the critical indicators that we use, including the sources of income. Where do people get income, as well as also access to land, including whether they are cultivating the land to make sure that they are able to produce their own food. Those are some of the indicators that we use.
And I mean, I want to sort of sneak in one last one, but I'm also looking at the time, and I know that we're going to go into the headline news. So perhaps let's pause it there and continue our conversation on the other side of this. But just by way of a reminder, our lines are open to you, and 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on if you want to share your thoughts on this conversation, or of course you want to get ahead and share your thoughts in our conversations that are coming up a bit later on. We're going to be talking around the cultures of Lobola, and has it lost its essence, in this modern context, why it was initially, I guess, I use the word designed, but that's because just lazy of vocabulary right now. But why, in essence, it existed. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through your voice notes on WhatsApp, you're more than welcome to do so. Luyanda Mahumi is coming through with the headline news in just a matter of moments. But we're also streaming, by the way, on our social media platforms. So you can find us on @SAFM Radio across the social media platforms. Wherever you are, we are there too. So from X to Instagram, as well as YouTube and Facebook, you can definitely find us under that handle.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
Thank you, Bridget. In your headlines, the legal counsel for the ANC has argued that the use of the name and logo closely resembling that of the disbanded Umkhonto weSizwe military wing of the governing party amounts to passing off in common law. This is what the ANC argues is being done by the Umkhonto weSizwe party. The Durban Magistrates Court has heard that police are investigating a payment of about 800,000 rand from taxi boss Mfundo Caba to the alleged linchpin in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes. In a sworn statement submitted by the state, Detective Bob Pillay says the money was paid from Caba's company Bright Star to Mzwethemba Gwaba the day after the Forbes and his friend Tibello Motswane were shot dead in Durban last year. And the Ugandan government has instructed all civil servants to spend 2 hours a week doing physical exercise to keep them fit and healthy. The directive was shared in a letter to government agencies from the head of public service, Lucy Nakoibe, who said the sessions would, quote, help save the lives of staff and reduce the disease burden. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is a 086 000 2032. We're in the midst of a conversation with Professor of Practice at the Human Sciences Research Council, Prof. Thokozani Simelane, and we're talking around a survey that was conducted that really looked at the state of nutrition in South Africa, and finding that a vast majority of South Africans are considered overweight or obese. And let me ask you this, now that we understand the lay of the land, Doc, and some of the primary indicators that were used in this particular survey, what were some of the outcomes from this information when one then dissected the data from your conversations? What were the outcomes that stuck out for you and your team?
Thank you for that. I think let's go back to the land issue and its dynamics between the urban and the rural areas. In the urban areas, I'm sure you again going to agree with me that we used to live on 4-room houses in townships, and we were satisfied with that. And that status quo has not changed. So within the urban areas, land is a critical issue or an inhibitor for households to produce their own food. In rural areas, on the other side, as I indicated, that there has been this shift in the settlement pattern, where that used to be reserved for agricultural production is now being used for settlement. And again, you will notice that when I'm talking about settlement. In rural areas of South Africa, there is this mushrooming of big houses that are the same type as what you see there.
Yes.
And it's a fact. Now, there is a subtle effect on that, saying that these houses are being built without any rezoning because the land belongs to the traditional authorities. So there is a need now, or the government has realized a need to promote rezoning in rural areas. Otherwise, the land is going to be more and more scarcer, and you cannot stay in a big house without eating it. So that it has a likelihood of promoting the dependency, indicating the dependence on buying food from the supermarket. That's one of the features that came. Secondly, is an involvement of young people in agriculture. And as I said, these young people are the ones that are going to take over and become the head. And if there unable to produce their own food, that is a limiting disaster for them. And then third one, again, as I indicated, is a strong dependency on social grant as a means of accessing food by the household.
And of course, all this speaks to some kind of, I guess, some kind of cycle between nutrition and economy, whether we're talking informal economies or we're talking structural economies.
Certainly, or let me rather use the word probably. So I'm saying that probably deliberately because, when you talk of nutrition, actually talking of the inherent cultural diversity. Because what probably the Zulu people eat as their main staple diet differs from the Tswanas, differs from Kavendas, and so on and so forth. So all those kind of nutritional diversity collapsed by adopting or creating a perception that we have one food system in South Africa. It's an unfortunate reality that we live with. But if then we can reverse a little bit and try to preserve the food types that we were eating, probably maybe we can then be able to preserve the nutritional foods that we used to have and promote their cultivation.
Also, you write here, Prof, that more than 2/3, around 67% of females were found to either be overweight and or obese. And I wonder, because, when you speak about the three sort of components that you interviewed in the households, head of household, caregiver, and children, females tend to be primarily the caregivers in households, which means they also are the holders in terms of, or the directors in terms of the household spend, where the money goes and what we buy, and ultimately are making the purchasing decisions, what we eat, how it's cooked. And I wonder, is there then a connection there perhaps with how we see it now with the 67% of females being overweight and obese, and that possibly trickling over into generations to come?
That is, we refer to it as a probability, actually, rather than to say it's a figure that is set.
Okay.
It is like when you can select a particular area or a village, you can expect that the higher proportion of female can be classified as overweight or obese. And having said that, certainly I agree with you when you say that females in most instances actually are the one who are the caregivers. They cook, buy food, and so on and so forth. But the indicator or the probability that you have referred to, again, I would like us to look at it in the context of the fact that what we have uncovered is that each and every province has got its own characteristic features when it comes to nutrition. There are those where we find that there is a higher probability or proportion of overweight and obesity, and we also uncovered that there are provinces where nutritional-related challenges like stunting are higher compared to. So what we can say at the moment, let us not conclusively say that the females are obese, but rather say that in some other provinces, there is a higher probability for females to be obese, as it is indicated by this survey, where we find that the higher proportion, like 65 or whatever percentage we have mentioned, the women that are obese. Now, we need to dig deeper then on that in terms of whether there are any traditional influences. Take, for instance, for more of the African society, a curvy and thick woman is appreciated because it represents fertility and saying that he's living very well at home. So if we are lean, and then there are even some derogatory names that you are referred to. So these issues are the issues that are actually embedded in our cultures and the norms in the way of living. And To that effect, I can give you a very interesting indication on other countries like Nigeria, where women are being force-fed to be effective. We have those dynamics, but we need to contextualize them so that at least we can then promote healthy living without pointing fingers. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah. Oh, no, not at all, Prof. I'm just letting you wrap up your thoughts there. We fast run out of time, but we thank you for unpacking this survey for us. That was a professor of practice at the Human Sciences Research Council, Thokozani Simelani. And by way of note, as Prof said, that there are different nuances and dynamics at play. One of the things that was also highlighted as a probability was that KZN reported a higher prevalence of obesity at around 39.4% compared to other provinces. Oh, I wonder if that says anything about, my people, the Zulus down there in KZN, and maybe the love for a more voluptuous female, as the prof says. Why are y'all nodding? Like, I don't understand. A whole studio filled with, Sesotho men nodding. Ninoda Nazin. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back.
Blue and Gold Army are happy with their performance in the DStv Premiership, and they want to triumph against Gold and Black to stay in the top 5. However, Amakosi want to bring back Injabulo to the Kosi Nation. The Citizens battles it out with the Glamour Boys. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Cape Town City versus Kaizer Chiefs, on Saturday 30 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
When South Africans think security, they think Trinidor. With 6 months interest-free financing and over 54 franchises around the country, you can always find the security product and price that's right for you. Visit trinidor.co.za or call 0861 Trinidor today. Trinidor, the ultimate crime barrier.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Stages, pages, screens, and more on the Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. And we're getting into a conversation now around Made in SA. And we're taking a look at, we're chatting to Chef Kelly Njoweni, who was born in the Eastern Cape, who's one of the lead chefs at a new establishment called King's Kraal, which opens up in Bryanston. How are you doing, Chef Kelly?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, not the Kelly I expected.
That's okay. I can forgive you for today.
I get it all the time. Well, I thought you were going to say I get it all the time. Thank you. Thank you very much for your forgiveness. Okay,
That's all good.
Let's talk about King's Kraal. It's a brand new establishment. We know people get very excited around brand new dining experiences, particularly in this city, which is fast claiming its little corner now as a dining haven. What is King's Kraal all about?
Yeah, so King's Kraal is a newly established restaurant in Bryanston. Our focus is African gastronomy food. Basically, it's us creating dishes and creating an environment in our space that celebrates who we are, where we are from, and just putting a limelight on the African indigenous flavors and just trying to celebrate them and bring them forward.
I mean, it all sounds very, very intriguing, because I think a lot of us, especially who live within the SADC regions and particularly South Africans, we don't have a lot of knowledge in terms of the culinary flavors of the rest of the continent. To have a restaurant that even introduces us to that in the slightest of ways is quite the adventure.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the adventure for us as well. Just for example, looking at our food that we have, everybody has a certain way that they grew up eating it, a certain appreciation. But for us, it's about pushing the scale. It's about showing that our food can also be put on a high level. It can also be served as fine dining food. It can also be served as food that is not peasant food.
Yeah.
So showing the appreciation for our African cuisine is something that we hold dear to our hearts. And this stems from just the indigenous ingredients that we have. Herbs like buchu, fynbos, amarula. Making sure that we highlight these recipes in creating dishes that are unique to King's Kraal. But that also elevate our dishes.
It's always interesting, this conversation, and chefs tend to have this discourse, right, around what the world has termed, quote unquote, peasant food. Even in the sort of Western sense of fine dining, a lot of like Creole culture will say that actually a lot of the fine dining menus are foods that were staple foods for farmhands and workers in a yesteryear, and those sort of the perceptions just changed over time. In an African context, when we talk about our food, it was our daily food, it was our staple foods, and it was foods that we celebrated with, foods that we honored great auspicious occasions with, and that we still do, and yet it doesn't have the same stature as other foods, even amongst ourselves.
Yeah, 100%, and this is exactly the mindset that we're trying to change. Using muhodu in a dish that invokes emotion, that also invokes memory. We've got a dish, for example, we call our crispy muhodu, which is reminiscent of a calamari dish. Right, you get the same crisp. It's made with a beautiful baobab spicy baobab mayo. So when you get it from a visual perspective, you're thinking, how this looks like calamari, and then you have a bite, and then you have that appreciation, post the bite to be like, oh no, man, I grew up eating this, but look what has been done to it. Look at the level that it's been elevated to, and that's what we want to focus on.
I mean, I might have to fight you there, Chef Kelly. I'm a traditionalist with the muhoru, so we might have to have some kind of a battle in the kitchen where you convince me to eat it any other way except my grandmother's way.
Yeah. So, and you know what, we 100% also understand that our customers and patrons, have that nostalgia, and that granny cooked it this way, and we've made provision for that in a small part of our menu, which is the Ndlovukazi side of the menu. This is literally just paying homage to the dishes, the way we grew up eating them. We have a beef mix, for example, that is that comes from Zimbabwe, the Shona people that have this beef mix dish that is mixed with moroho. Whereas when South Africans come into the restaurant, right, they'll be like, no, man, but we thought it was a beef stew, because we know our red meat to be stewy and saucy, filled with lots of vegetables, carrots, onions, and all of that stuff. But this is a dish that people have taken to. People have shown a very, very high appreciation for. And this is just examples of, listen, guys, yes, we know that there are dishes that you grew up eating a specific way, and the appreciation should always be there. In no way are we saying let's move away from what we know or from what we have grown up with. All we are saying is that let us not limit our palates. Let us not limit our culinary environment our indigenous ingredients. Let's not limit them in terms of what it is that can be produced on a plate.
I got you. And before we wrap it up, you guys have something special coming up for the Easter weekend.
Yes, so we have our crawl feast weekend. So we're creating 3-course menus starting from our tomorrow, which is Thursday, running until Saturday, and then on Sunday we've got a beautiful buffet that we are serving that will include our fish and everything. And you will notice with the plated menus, the set menus now, it's a little bit of a taste of everything that we have from the menu. So we've created multiple different menus, and then we'll literally just have everybody come in, taste what we have, and then just have that experience.
Lovely stuff. Look forward to popping in there one of these days and tasting out some of the dishes that you have. That was Chef Kelly Njoweni joining us all the way from, he's born and bred in Eastern Cape, classically trained as a private chef, and he's one of the head chefs at the new establishment, King's Crawl, which is dominating right here in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. Kids Corner is standing by, and that will run us till the top of the hour. Luyanda Mahume is coming through at 2 o'clock with your 2 o'clock bulletin.
ES Tunis plan to disallow their visitors any breathing moment, but ASEC Mimosas remain extremely hungry for maximum points on the road. The North takes on the West. This is the first leg quarter-final battle of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. ES Tunis versus ASEC Mimosas on Saturday, 30 March at 11 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Get to Dis-Chem Pharmacies for great offers for the whole family. Save 40 Rand on the Lint Gold Bunny 200 gram. Now only 119 Rand 95. Buy a Sanic shower gel, 500 ml and roll-on 50 ml for just 90 Rand and save 26 Rand 90. And enjoy 10% off Dental Mate mouthwash 1 litre, now just 62 Rand 96 each. Valid until 7 April at Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Better health starts here.
Coming up on the book reading.
First, I knew that Franz Fanon had been here before me. I reread that famous passage. But where Fanon writes, "Mama, see the Negro, I'm frightened." From Ratele the boy I hear, "Dad, see this Negro. How amazing is he?" And this is what I arrived at this time. If I don't see him, if I don't look at him in the way he is asking me to look at him, he will never see himself.
Catch the book reading on SFM Monday to Thursday at 11:45 on The Talking Point.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
My name is Tiara Matsuha. I'm in grade 6 at Primary School. It is important to have rights as a human being. In terms of bills of rights, everyone has a right to life, equality, and human dignity. 2 things that children have and their own responsibility: right to go to school and right to personal security. Our teachers have taught us about human rights at school. Today I want to tell you that everyone have a right to go to school and have a right to do everything that he or she wants.
My name is Duruetsang Ndlovu and I go to Macaulay House School. Yes, I do understand that rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. 2 rights that children have are the right to education and the right to a form of care. 2 responsibilities that children have are caring for their school stationery and books, and to show others respect, especially the elderly. I think that the importance of having rights as human beings is to make sure that we are cared for by our government and families. Also to make sure that in a situation we are heard. Yes, I was taught about human rights in grade 5 and 6. Now that I know them, I can respect people very well.
Hi everyone, my name is Shonaka Malehasi. I'm 10 years old. I live at Middleland Zone 7. My school is Sobezo Primary. I'm here to talk about the importance of having rights. Yes, I do understand that rights walk hand in hand with responsibilities. Two rights that children have is listening to others and respect to each other. Responsibilities of children is taking care of themselves and studying. I think the importance of having rights as human being is that I must understand all my rights. Yes, I've taught about human rights at school. Thank you.
Good day everyone. My name is Kawega Zimayana and today I'll be talking about human rights. I did know that rights walk hand in hand with responsibilities. For example, children have the right to education, but they also have the responsibility to do their homework and listen in class when the teacher is explaining or talking. You also have the right to clean water, but you also have the responsibility to not waste the water, make sure you don't leave taps running with water, and make sure that you don't throw away water that is clean that can still be used. It's important to have rights so that you know what you can do and what you can't do. We are taught about rights, and we are taught that Tata Nelson Mandela fought for our rights, and we wouldn't be living the life we are living now if it wasn't for him, and we thank him for that. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day and see you next time.
My name is Lubanzi Hlongwane. I definitely understand that rights walk hand in hand with responsibilities. Children have the right to an education, but it is a child's responsibility to make sure that they work hard at school, that they pass, and that they can be promoted to the next grade. The importance of having rights is to know how to be treated properly. Back in the olden days, people didn't have rights, which resulted them to being treated like they were not human at all. So the importance of having rights right now is to make sure that you are being treated fairly and you are being treated like a human being. But just because you have rights does not mean that you should disrespect the rights of someone else. Everyone in a country has the same rights. So I feel like it is very, very important that even if we have rights, we should respect the rights of other people. Yes, we are taught about human rights at school. We are actually even given a list of all the Bill of Rights and the human rights, and a right that really sticks out to me is freedom of speech. Yes, everyone has freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to say whatever they want, but it has to be respectful. It cannot be disrespectful to someone else. Everyone has an opinion, but it should be respectful. It can't be offensive and it can't be rude. So yeah, I really like that right because I feel like it's something that a lot of people really have to learn.
Hello friends, I hope you are having a wonderful morning. As March draws to a conclusion, let's talk about rights. Did you know that every child has rights? However, having rights also means having responsibilities. Your rights and responsibilities go hand in hand, just like two children standing with their arms intertwined. Rights and responsibilities are the foundation of a functioning society. They provide us as children and our parents with a framework for living together and making progress. Rights empower us as children by ensuring our freedom and protection, which are essential for our dignity, independence, and growth. Rights also promote a sense of belonging and equality among us as children. Responsibilities instill accountability, encouraging social unity and the greater good. Responsibilities require children to contribute positively to their surroundings, ensuring that the exercise of right does not infringe upon the rights of others. Together, rights and responsibilities form the basis of a balanced and fair community, where children and everyone else can exercise their freedom while respecting the well-being and rights of others. This fosters harmony, fairness, and progress in our society. Now let's focus on the history of human rights in our country. In South Africa, The history of human rights is marked by the struggle against apartheid, a system of racial segregation and discrimination that was enforced from 1948 to 1994. During this time, the apartheid regime denied basic rights to the majority black population, including the right to vote, access to education, healthcare, and employment. This led to global condemnation and sanctions against the apartheid government, marking a significant turning point. The adoption of a new democratic constitution in 1996 solidified South Africa as a constitutional democracy, ensuring that all citizens, regardless of race, gender, or religion, are guaranteed fundamental human rights. As March draws to a close, never forget that Human Rights Month is more than just a basic awareness month. It bears our past, and the best way we can appreciate this past is to exercise our rights in a responsible manner.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
In your top stories at 2, the court continues hearing arguments against the MK Party brand and stunning revelations in the AKA murder case. This is SAFM News. A very good afternoon. I am Luyanda Maume. We begin with some election-related news now. The legal counsel for the ANC has argued that the use of the name and logo closely resembling that of the disbanded Umkhonto weSizwe military wing of the governing party amounts to passing off in common law. Passing off arises when a trader associates themselves in the course of trade with the proprietor of a well-known brand known to the public. It is a misrepresentation of an association. This is what the ANC argues is being done by the Umkhonto weSizwe party with the use of the name that will garner votes that it otherwise would not have garnered. Counsel Advocate Gavin Marriott made reference to the utterances of former President Jacob Zuma.
On 30th of December, addressing a crowd of supporters, Zuma stated that he has not left the ANC, but the first respondent, his party, is one of the rooms within the ANC, which he will use to save the ANC. That's the association. That's the case.
The Durban Magistrates Court has heard that police are investigating a payment of about 800,000 rand from taxi boss Mfundo Caba to the alleged linchpin in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes. In a sworn statement submitted by the state, Detective Bob Pillay says the money was paid from Caba's company Bright Circle to Mzwethemba Kwaba the day after Forbes and his friend Tibello Motswane were shot dead in Durban last year. State Prosecutor Advocate Lawrence Caba read from Pillay's statement that there had been no previous records of dealings between Mfundo Caba and Kwaba's companies.
Mr. Sidney Mfunda Caba is the sole director of this company. When the money was transferred, a reference was used as consult. This, we are of the view, was done to disguise the nature of the funds, as same is viewed to be payment for the shooting. My team and I are currently investigating the source of this and any other funds that may have been used for the planning and execution of these offences.
The bail application for the 2 prominent businessmen and their 2 accomplices convicted of murder and kidnapping, amongst others, is underway in the High Court in Polokwane, Limpopo. They want to be granted bail after appealing their sentences in the Supreme Court of Appeal. Taxi organization Santaco in Limpopo has expressed concerns about taxi-related killings in Zebediela after 4 people, including 2 taxi drivers, a passenger and a passerby, were shot and killed at Muletlane village. Authorities suspect a feud over the Zebediela-Leboagomo route as the possible cause for the killings. Santaco chairperson Fras Ngwebe says they are planning to meet the warring taxi associations.
We are busy to meet all stakeholders under Zebediela, the taxi association, to try to solve this problem because it's a big challenge in the province. We are ready to organize the meeting to meet with all the association of Zebediela.
And finally, the Ugandan government has instructed all civil servants to spend 2 hours a week doing physical exercise to keep them fit and healthy. The directive was shared in a letter to the government agencies from the head of the public service, Lucy Nakyobe, who said the sessions would help, quote, save the lives of staff and reduce the disease burden. It comes 2 years after a national health survey showed obesity rates in the country had risen from 17% to 26% in the last 17 years. Recapping a top story, the legal counsel for the ANC has argued that the use of the name and logo closely resembling that of the disbanded Umkhonto weSizwe military wing of the governing party amounts to passing off in common law. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Blue and Gold Army are happy with their performance in the DStv Premiership, and they want to triumph against Gold and Black to stay in the top 5. However, Amakosi want to bring back Injabulo to the Kosi Nation. The Citizens battles it out with the Glamour Boys. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Cape Town City versus Kaizer Chiefs, on Saturday 30 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Join model and TV personality Dr. Fezile and Dr. Anesu on Top Travel. Allow yourself to be taken on an exhilarating journey across Africa, redefining travel at its finest on our very own home turf. From the rolling green hills of the Eastern Cape to the breathtaking sapphire waters of the Kenyan coastline, the duo explores the diverse landscapes and cultures of the continent we call home. Channel your inner adventurer with Top Travel. Start Saturday the 23rd of March at 8:30 p.m. only on
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Uyayazi lenta ifunayo mnike yona uyayazi lenta ifunayo mnike yona umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya kubalulekile uzame zonke indlela zokujabulisa isinqandamathe sakho kubalulekile uzame konke okusemandle ukuthi sijabule islavithi sakho ingozi enkulu ukuthi kufika umuntu ezama ukwenza into ongayenzi wena hayi uzosola ubani sebamchamile sebamthathile kuwe awuthi ukunyusa amasokisi uzoyazi lento ayifunayo mnike yona uyayazi lento ayifunayo mnike yona umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya mnike ungamnqabeli injabulo mnike kuzoba mnandi ekhaya yenza konke do all the best you ayifunayo nike yona nike yona uyayazi lento ayifunayo nike yona nike yona umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya uyayazi lento ayifunayo nike yona nike yona uyayazi lento ayifunayo nike yona nike yona umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna angeke kusaba mnandi ekhaya mnike mnike ungamnqabeli mnike mnike ungamgodleli mnike mnike ungamncishi umntana abantu mnike mnike konke ngokwakhe oh
Is Afro Attraction coming through with Mnige? That is the title of the track. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, as we get into this conversation around Uglobola. And the question is, has the noble idea of Uglobola, has it been misused? By some families in the current modern construct as a mechanism to amass wealth? Has it lost that novelty? 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is the WhatsApp line where you can send us a WhatsApp message if you want to do so. Voice notes is always a beautiful thing. We know that marriage continues to be very much an important aspect of life for many people, not just within the context of our continent, but globally as well. It's a respected way of families forming and, two people coming together, often bridging two cultures into one. And in South Africa, it is expected amongst us as Africans that there is some kind of uglobola or ilobolo that is paid before the actual marriage. And it continues to be very much a very strong cultural practice, very common in South Africa and on the African continent as a whole. But we have seen some changes, or there have been some changes to how this practice, this culture is a practice over the decades. And I wonder if the shift has moved from, the initial nobleness of the concept and what it was intended to do. And maybe it's evolving given that societies evolve. And we thought we'd get to join us on the conversation Dr. Nomagugu Ngobese, who is a cultural activist as well as a sangoma. And we've got Umkulu Nzingiza, there we go, Nzingiza, who is a cultural expert. My eyes went all over the place there for a second. Apologies, Mkulu. Good afternoon to both of you. And I think, let me start with you, Dr. Nomagugu. As it stands right now, the culture and the tradition of lobola, that is something that I'm assuming is still widely accepted, particularly within the African context. Yeah, there's still a lot of people that subscribe to the practice of uglobola.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a shift of lobola now, because it has taken a trend of capitalism. It's no longer an original lobola. Lobola was not prescribed in our forefathers' time. a groom have to offer what have, and then the negotiations, then the marriage. Today there's a long list of things that the bride family looking for those things, presents from the groom alone, which is unfair to us. So other people can say it is good, but to us as activists of this cultural custom, it must be reversed. It must go back because the results are gender-based very high. Because the very expensive lobola, which is being paid by the groom alone. And there are a lot of things that have just propped up to make this very sophisticated for a groom.
Let me see if I understand you correctly, Dr. Nomagugu. You were saying, obviously, because of, the sort of shift towards capitalism, and I guess the shift towards the material as well, it's aided in lobola losing its essence, and ultimately the pressures and the burdens that are placed on the male, who's often the one paying the lobola, has led to an unfairness. Am I understanding you correctly? And you're suggesting that perhaps it be reversed?
Of course, it should be reversed. It's not that love is a passionate thing. It has nothing to do with the prescription that the bride family.
Let's try and get you on a different line, because the line is quite horrible, and you're barely audible. So let's try and get you on a different line. In the meantime, Umkhulu is on the line with us. How are you doing, Umkhulu? Thokoza baba. Let's see ukuthi angazi, because this conversation today is going to be interesting. Where do you see the culture of uglobola in the context of where we are as societies right now, particularly African societies? Do you think it's still something that's quite relevant on the one hand, and something that is still prescribed to by many families?
Yes, it's still relevant. There's a lot of abuse, that has, cropped up. People are abusing this culture, to capitalize and make money. And originally, it wasn't meant for that, because to bring together two families, so that as they marry, to each other, they better know and understand themselves, because they're now becoming one family. So if it's now driven by money, then it messes up the whole thing. It kills the love that two people, feel. Because, I could be in a position that I might not afford, to pay the money that, the family of my girlfriend that they are demanding. I'm not able to pay, so therefore it becomes an impediment towards us achieving what we both feel. So I agree with Umama ukhulume iqiniso. It's so true. There are so many things in our culture, so many things that we have to do a cleanup, because they've lost that sacredness, and the respect that was afforded, to these traditions. So there's a lot, that have been influenced, by Western, culture, to a point that we end up following those things to the detriment for our own culture as African people. So, somehow we always pray that, we could get people in the leadership, that could assist in cleaning up all these things, because these are tried and tested traditions that kept harmony, and balance in our community.
But then I wonder, Mkhulu, just by way of playing devil's advocate, right? If the suggestion is that to a large degree, Lobola has lost its essence, what it was intended to be, the symbolism of it, right? And if the argument is that Lobola needs to maybe be re-looked at, you use the word clean up, Dr. Nomagugu uses the term that it must be reversed, then is the onus not on us as individuals, the various cultures that honor such traditions, the various groups that honor such traditions, is the onus not on us to be the ones who have conversations within our families to say, where did we go wrong in our understanding of what Lobola is and how it should be done? Because this is, as much as it's a collective conversation, but it boils down to individual households and how they conduct the practice of Uglobol.
Oh, yes, certainly. I think, we should look up to our traditional leaders, Amako said, because this thing has always, been guided by Amakos. And what we lack in the society today, it's those structures, those rites of passage that, Africans, practice for a long time, that made sure that, everything is orderly within the community. So we need to reinstate. Umama, she's an activist. We truly appreciate that. And meaning the children that she's assisting in raising, they've got to find a structure that is orderly, and a structure that is pure, that is not driven by money. We all hope and we should return to those ancient old structures that kept our societies, in harmony with nature. Yes.
Let me see if Dr. Nomagugu. Okay, we lost that line because that line was horrible. So we continue the conversation with Mkhulu Njingiza, who's a cultural expert. Mkhulu, I'm going to again, kick this back at you because I hear what you're saying about, the return to the essence with Amakosi, the return to the essence of the old ways and invoking Amakosi and that whole structure of who we are as a people. But ultimately, we also can agree that times have evolved and how we live as societies have evolved, right? A lot of us live outside the order of Amakosi, outside the structure of village chieftains and leaders in that context. And so if we are to regulate and try and reassess what our cultures mean, these conversations by and large happen outside of krals and kings and chiefdoms. These conversations now happen in the streets of Soweto, in the streets of Guamashu, and we are the ones that must self-regulate, no?
No. We need to fight towards going back to those structures. I'll make an example. The Jewish people evolve, as we are evolving all the time. But they never compromise on their sacred traditions. They keep those, because this is what keeps them sane. This is what balances them. So we should emulate all those cultures that we see being very vibrant and strong and, in their belief system. So we cannot continue as Africans, to be confused and wanting to be hybrid and, just create a hybrid culture. We are African, therefore, we need to go back to those African structures.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I get you. I think I get you. And let me ask this, because we're speaking to gentlemen today. Well, and we are left with you now, Mkhulu. But let me ask this. From a male perspective, to some degree, do you still believe that males still do hold sacred the intention of uglobola?
I think, there are a lot of men, especially here in townships, who are very proud, to actually give, that respect and honor to the family that raised, their loved one. It's just that what they lack is the direction as to, how to actually execute. Some of them, would even, ask older people in the community to assist them and advise them. But, that is an indication of the need for them to go back, to their tradition and culture. So it is still very relevant. I've met a lot of, a few people, that are just happy by just going Guamusa. Because we know that the Home Affairs, everything that is a marriage concluded there, it's not regarded as a marriage in the African context. Hello?
Yes, I'm still listening, Mkhulu.
Yes, it's, marriage, Home Affairs, it's not regarded as marriage in the African context. So a lot of, young black, men look forward, to doing and giving honor, to the family that raised, their loved one.
I get you. I think we've got Dr. Nomagugu back on the line, hopefully with a crisper line now. Dr. Nomagugu, let me throw this ball at you. From your assessment as a cultural activist, and obviously keeping to mind what you said earlier about the burden that is placed on men with some of the expectation around uglobola. But the question that I'd asked to Mkhulu just now was, in your opinion, do males, and particularly this young generation of males who are at marrying ages, are they still seeing the relevance of uglobola as it was intended, as we understand it, not the material aspects of it and the financial burden to it, but do they still believe in the intention of the practice?
Yes, my president. They still be. The problem society is who have changed their lifestyle as if that what is being done now is good. But because there is no money, in fact, people are poor. It means if we are poor, you cannot get white, which is insane to me. Because it's not about money, it's about passion, the love. It has just shifted from love and just gone to capitalism. That's why I said even gender-based violence, it has just popped up from there. Sometimes people pay a lot, a groom pay a lot, and at the end of the day, the very girl that he married fall in love with other people and doing all that things. Not a woman, not responsible as wife. Not that they are perfect. No, this is a country.
Oh, Dr. Nomagugu, our line really is failing us. But 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is the WhatsApp line. If you have an opinion that you'd like to share in regards to this, both our guests having suggested that perhaps we need to reverse or relook at what lobola looks like at the center of the argument. It seems as though the burden that it's placing on, males, male grooms, the respective male grooms, is quite a lot. I don't know what your thinking is. I'm still yet to hear from both our guests sort of making the argument around the intention of lobola, because I think the intention still holds true. Anyway, but we look forward to your voice notes on 061 410 4107.
Those who love the beautiful game can never have enough of the incredible moments. Like the fascinating last-minute goals, the unbelievable saves, the top-of-the-range reviews of critical match scenarios by the legendary Mr. Ref, the mummies of the week, and highly knowledgeable analysts. Catch Soccer Zone on Mondays at 8 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 at 10 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Well, afternoon SAFM, afternoon South Africa. I believe ilobola is still relevant, and we must continue to make it relevant because it becomes the basis upon which families emerge. We have all antisocial behavior today because we have moved away from that tradition. There's this what you call masihlalisane, fat and sad, trap and loss. That is producing children whom we refer to as the lost generation, the Nyawupes. Major from Kwatema. Thank you.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
In your headlines at 2:36, ANC councillors in the Umzumbe municipality in KwaZulu-Natal South Coast have resigned from the party and their council seats. They were suspended by the party last year when they defied the ANC and voted with opposition to remove an ANC mayor. The legal counsel for the ANC has argued that the use of the name and logo closely resembling that of the disbanded Umkhonto weSizwe military wing of the governing party amounts to passing off in common law. This is what the ANC argues is being done by the Umkhonto weSizwe party. And Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwane says he's deeply devastated by the brutal murder of a grade 11 female learner from Chipatabane Secondary School at Refilwe in Cullinan in the east of Pretoria. The learner had attended extra classes on Friday and did not return home. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Whether we are at the workplace, within communities, at school, or with our friends and family, we all need to demonstrate the kind of responsibility that we would like to see in our country's future. SAFM commemorates Human Rights Month.
And what is it that the community is asking for? What are they demanding? As I just the conversation that we just had with Eric and Dabazalila as well just now is that as far as they are concerned, the police said the search is still on for Jocelyn. Some people also wondering where she could be, and some even fear that she could have passed on.
We all fear that she may have passed or something like that, but the police is failing us because they have now those 4 suspects that apparently some of them confess, but none of them are saying where Jocelyn really is, and that is frustrating.
Lakeda Jordan is a community resident in Friedenberg.
This is Aldrin Sampier on Beyond the Headline. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is the full circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp and hear your thoughts.
Afternoon, SAFM listeners. I think Lobola belongs to a time or an age where divorce was not even a thing. You know, in our days where there's divorce, how does Lobola feature into all this cause? What happens to a Lobola when divorce erupts? You know, so maybe your Leonard guest can assist us on that part. Thank you so much. Langa in Potchefstroom.
Hey Bridget, you know I've had instances where people say they were charged a lot of money for a lobola. Kanjani? Because I remember my uncle Ezak Mina eti so umkhwenyana uthi unamalini And I know very well that was done so that my family does not go over and above what my husband can afford. It was just being kind, and I actually did ask him, good, endoda, unemalin vel, and everything after that was just around that amount that I had then relayed to uba umalume ukuthi ene umkhwenyana uphethe malini, kanti abantu bachaja kanjani, kanti ithandwa zabo don't intervene. Thanks, Sibongi.
Bridget, your guests, they're just taking us into the bush. I mean, lobola is a good thing. Lobola must stay. If you're a man and you want to marry a woman, you should be able to support that woman together with your kids as well. So if you cannot even pay for a lobola, how on earth are you going to be able to look after that woman? And not gonna really, we may love someone, but I mean, love only is not good enough. You should be able to support your family. I mean, now women are forced to go and look for work. Well, it's good, but I mean, a man should not really force a woman to go and look for work. A man should be able to support his woman, irrespective. If a woman is working, that must be just an added bonus, in this day and age.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
So interesting, particularly our last voice note. I didn't get your name, but the sentiment around, lobola is a sign of showing that you're capable of taking care of your woman, your wife, and your family, right? Which speaks to men being able to provide. And what I found interesting is that it leads to another thought, because if we're saying reverse lobola, and the voice notes is pro lobola as a way of showing that you're able to take care of your family and your wife, taking it one step further, even I'm sure you heard when he says that even ideally, it should be an option whether or not your wife actually wants to enter the labor market. Because the converse of the conversation would be, can you imagine then if lobola had to be reversed and women take up this position of saying, well, then I'll just stay at home. And we go the traditional way then, where I'll just be at home. I think a lot of men will also be up in arms around that. It's one of those situations. Mkhulu, you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still on the line.
Mkhulu, ubongi uti in our voice notes, ubongi uti, but when we talk about the financial burden of lobola, surely there should be a conversation between the two parties. There should be a conversation where together you'll understand how deep is his pocket, how many cows can he afford to pay, and what is reasonable. And then as umfazi, you are the one who then goes and talks to your family to say, lalela, uSipho is coming, but sine agreement yoSipho ukuthi 40,000 is what we can afford as a lobola, a reasonable lobola. Shouldn't there be that conversation and intervention, vele?
That is true. That is a conversation between lovers. But that shouldn't be a stumbling block towards the future of those two people. I know of incidents where people started from nothing together. Then, they build each other until they achieve whatever they want. So as long as there's love there, there's a way. So as much as Indoda might to have something, where you want to take umfazi. But that shouldn't be, the deciding factor, whether they move forward or not, because circumstances change for people. A person that you thought they are not going to succeed in life, they surprise you after 2-3 years. You see them, they are up there. So you can't predict what life can do. As long as there's love between two people, there'll always be a way.
And I think that's the point that Ubongi is driving at, is the argument around lobola being a financial burden on men. Perhaps is an argument that can't hold water if there's communication between the two parties and there's an expectation, Uguti, my family is going to ask for this much because I've already briefed them, Uguti, you are in a position to only afford mhlambe 10 rand as a gesture. And so they can't ask you for 100 rand because we've already had that open discourse and dialogue.
Yes, that happens, and of God. There's no marriage, that happens without that communication. Because, the lady to be married speaks to Malum or somebody within the family who then becomes an ear, what are the expectations. Then you Malum or somebody older who represent Abazali will then communicate, which I know. We can't demand the 40,000 because Labantu, in reality, this is their situation. So it's all about communication. And once, two families are happy, with whatever situation, sometimes you'll find that I'm well off, enough money. I wouldn't mind paying, $1 million for my woman. Why? Because I have enough. So it really depends. So in situation, that communication happens a lot because if I'm well off, he can afford anything. And then, Yes,
I still think it's because for me, my understanding of Globola is that it's a symbol. On the one hand, you can take care of their daughter. It's a gesture to saying ngiyabonga. It's a unifier to a family to say, okay, sis, obomkhozi sonke. So even if I was marrying Patrice Mutsipe, I would still expect him to just pay the usual 8 to 10 cows, nothing more, nothing less. They don't have to be uncoli. They can just be normal ngunis and we are good.
Yes, that is true. But I'm just making an example. If I'm well off, and the new chances of that, I can pay anything. Because whatever I pay, I know there's enough in the kitty to take us into the future.
I got you.
So, material things for me, it wouldn't matter that much.
Here's another question. In the instance of divorce, and we've gotten a few WhatsApps around this, in the instance of divorce, because people don't, last forever, amen, anymore. What happens to amalobolo? Because in this Zulu, inkomo iyabuyiswa noma?
Hey, that really happens. But I believe I haven't witnessed it. It happens where, some people have spoken about a ritual which has to be done, something like that. But in the African sense, it's divorce because of that. Because we have combined these two, families with their ancestors. So to undo that, in the ancient past, what I hear is that what will happen, say people are no longer feeling each other emotionally, and that love has somehow, diminished. Ubaba then will be umama just outside the homestead. Ahlale lapho, but continue. Umama continues, and the family, like, even though bangasazwa no baba. So divorce ngokwesintu ayikho wena Ndlovukazi.
Ayikho ngesintu, but ikhona, but okay. I understand what you're saying. And then I got a message that says, I disagree. Sorry, I just want to pull up the message. I disagree that there should be love between people who are getting married because forceful and arranged marriages have existed. That is not the conversation of the day, though. We're not talking around, forceful and arranged marriages. We're talking around two consenting adults who've committed and chosen to be in love together and bring their families together. And that is the context. Mkhulu, we have to wrap it there for today. Ngizolinda ngazi ukuthi R1 million inkomo ingakanani, but uyayazi ikheli lase SABC. Thokoza mkhulu, thank you. Let's take a quick break here and we'll come right back and find out what's on Beyond the Headline.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul, or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
The Blues are looking for nothing but victory to cement a decent top half position.
Mudryk takes over. Mudryk's through. Mudryk round the goalkeeper. Oh, it's fantastic.
But the Clarets need 4 points to step out of the uncomfortable zone.
Come on, Jakob. Jakob Brun Larsen scores. Burnley. Perfect penalty. Keeper went the right way. Too much on it.
This is the Premier League. Witness the superb contest between Chelsea FC and Burnley FC on Saturday, 30 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Simprezi is in the house. Aldrin Simpia is here to let us know what's coming up on. I mean, it's not the penultimate to be on the headline.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. It's the build-up to the finale.
Oh, there's a finale.
Yeah,
even.
it's a build-up to the finale.
Oh, look at
Yeah,
you. I'm
yeah.
surprised you all calm and things. Yeah, we're going to get to what's coming up on your show. Like, I'm surprised.
So I'm like ready with my script. Eh? Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. It was a difficult decision, but yeah, had to be taken. It was as I said yesterday in my tweet that it was a necessary decision to take. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's been incredible being part of this place, to help build the station, the sound of the station as well, influence the sound of the station, and also grow the number of listeners that we have. So it's been totally amazing. And once again, thank you to our listeners for just inviting us into, because here's the thing about radio is somebody invites you to their private space, whether it is in the car, whether it is at home, whether it is at the office, or they're walking or jogging. There's just something special about being chosen, because that's what it is. There are 20,000 other radio stations that you could choose from and other mediums that you could be listening to, but you decided to listen to us, and that I truly appreciate.
Oh, you see, this is why we love Aldrin Simpia. Hey, Kalo, you can't tweet that you're leaving and then think you're just going to walk in here and just tell us about BTH and J. I can't. And keep it moving.
And beautiful roses.
Hey?
Flowers. I've got a nice bouquet in front of me, guys.
Look
Thank
at
you so
you.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
It's the least.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, what's coming up on your show today?
Do you have a Birkin bag?
Well,
look at her put her phone down so that she can have this conversation.
Because I know it's good with this conversation. I live in a reality where I don't have Mutsipe money for a Birkin bag, a Hermes Birkin bag right now. I said right now.
Right now.
Yes,
okay.
right now.
But would you love to own one?
It's never been a priority, but I think as somebody who actually likes, a sense of luxury in one's life, it's not my aesthetic, so I wouldn't own 20, but I would own one. Like, If
the
one.
Mutsipe money was there.
When the Mutsipe, can you speak properly?
Okay, sorry. When the Mutsipe money arrives and miraculously appears in your bank account and there's a balance that says there's a couple of millions.
Speak it into existence.
Speak it into existence.
Then I would own one. I would own a beautiful snake or croc or, sustainably sourced from like dead snake and croc. Yeah, I would own one. I know where this conversation is going. I've got very strong views. I share them with you. I got very strong views around access to luxury and certain brands that are like Hermes is the pinnacle of luxury.
Yeah.
It is the pinnacle of luxury. And for me, I feel like it's value, and I understand why people will be like feeling a bit slated that, but the value of a brand like that must sustain.
Yes.
Which speaks to rarity, access, it speaks to affordability. You know what I mean?
It's a wealth status.
Yes.
It's a status of like, this is it.
Exactly.
I've got the Mutsipe money.
Maui Bega next to Dr. Precious, she looks at you with a different eye because she understands
that
what
you have spoken through your bag. I've spoken through your bag. I find it totally fascinating. So you know that I'm into bags and stuff, right? So I find it fascinating though with the Hermes Birkin bag, because now there are two women in the US that have filed a suit against Hermes International because of their business model and how their business model exclude people like themselves, and they say that they're forced to buy other products from Hermes, and all they really wanted was the Birkin bag. And even after they've purchased, the one lady speaks about she was only allowed to buy one bag, and then she wanted another one, and then they said no, you need to buy more ancillary products. Anyway, there's this lawsuit, but like 10 million rand for a bag.
I know.
10 million rand, guys.
Okay, they're looking at me going, time.
Okay, yeah, so sorry. Yeah, anyway, but we will be speaking to Karen Kitchen, who is a trademark attorney from Breeden Camp IP Attorneys, to speak about this. What's the fascination about a Birkin bag?
You know who I wish you guys could have gotten? I'm sorry. Okay, we're wrapping it up. I wish you guys could have gotten Sotheby's on the conversation, Sotheby's International, because they can help us understand the legacy of luxury at that level. And the preservation of it and the importance of preserving.
Zamele, we still have time. The conversation is coming up at 5:10. So maybe you can hook us up, you know? If you know people, speak to people. Anyway, also coming up on the show, because the MPC meeting is coming up at 3 o'clock. The outcomes of the MPC meeting is coming up at 3 o'clock. So we'll take that live, and then we'll give you analysis on what the Reserve Bank governor had to say.
Awesome. We'll be listening. Wealth. Yes, it's all about wealth. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
And thank you for that.
Yanga have a massive mission to dish out orders in Dar es Salaam against 2016 champions. However, Masandawana believe in their ability to succeed anywhere on African soil. This is the first leg quarter-final encounter of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. Young Africans versus Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday, 30 March at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
As we wrap it up in our final moments with Dr. Linda Ngubengomo, who is the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, this month, South Africa is yet again commemorating Human Rights Month, and yet the rights of children continue to be trampled on, as shown by the continuous harrowing headlines that show a lack of child safety. And we thought we'd catch up with Dr. Linda around this conversation. How are you doing, Dr. Linda?
Hi, Bridget. Thanks for having us, and thanks to your listeners who are tuned into the show and will hear what we have to say.
It's only a pleasure. Okay, let's jump straight into it. We say that we're a society that upholds paramount children's rights, and I wonder though, you know, given the headlines that we see and the incidences in society, really, how true to that do we live up to?
We fail, total fail. If it was an exam, we wouldn't even get to the 30% mark. That's how dreadful we're doing. So we've got perfect constitution. Section 28 of the Bill of Rights says what the children's rights are. But it feels like so what? Who cares? You know, you can have your Bill of Rights, but the reality is going to be totally different. So we're totally failing our children. And in failing our children, we are failing our future, and it's going to come and bite us hard.
Safety seems to be central to this conversation. Safety and security for our kids. Missing children. South Africa reported that over 1,300 children go missing in South Africa every month, and we ranked 7th in the world.
And that just shows you that we can have a constitution that says children should be safe. They should be protected, you know, they should be maltreatment or neglect, abuse of children, but the actual reality on the ground tells us something else. And I think the real tragedy, Bridget, is when children can disappear from their homes, like what we're seeing with the case of Jocelyn Smith.
Yeah.
Now, if a child be safe at home, what hope is there that they'll be safe in the community or in the school or in South Africa as a whole?
Absolutely. In November last year, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund alongside Deloitte Africa, you guys released what you call the State of the South African Children's Report. And there was quite a few shocking details within that report. Can you run us through maybe 2 or 3 of some of the findings?
So related to this topic that we're talking about of child safety and protection, we found that in 2021, there were close to 40,000 children who were victims of violent crime. And then if you looked at the child murder rate in South Africa, it was sitting at 5.5 for every 100,000 children versus a global average of 1.6. I mean, those numbers just tell you something that's really scary, that 1 out of 5 children are going to be victims of sexual crimes within South Africa, and then another third online bullying or some form of exploitation. So when you take the children and you expect them to perform well at school, and you expect them to be members of society who have respect for the law, and have respect for the rights of others, we're really fighting a losing battle because we've not demonstrated to the children what safety and nurturing and protection looks like. So that cycle is likely to repeat itself for a couple of generations if we don't turn the tide around.
Shoo. I mean, as shocking as all those numbers are, even shocking the numbers correlating to children and child-related murders in this country, as well as sexual offenses. I mean, we can't be surprised considering just how violent our society is.
And the violence of that society is a result of children who were raised in violence. And at some point, the lights need to come on for all of us. But if we don't start to turn this tide around, in 20, 50 years' time, there's going to be another Bridget and Linda having a conversation about exactly the same issue. Because nobody will have taken the time to say, what do I need to do differently? We keep asking, who's dropping the ball? Whose problem is it? It's our problem. It's our responsibility to start eliminating those numbers of children being murdered, children being violated in the most scary ways.
Yeah. And what do we do, Dr. Linda? I mean, I know people often speak about policy, but as we said at the beginning of this conversation, we have all the right policies, we have all the right legislation, and yet we're still failing in as far as, safeguarding the most vulnerable of our population.
We start making the well-being of children our business, regardless of whose child it is. We need to start, and I'm going to die on this hill, that we have to deal with perpetrators of violence, and we have to deal with those who know about the violence but choose to look the other way. That's got to now become the reality of caregivers and neighbors and communities who know that children are being abused but are doing nothing about it. So until we get to a point where every single adult can be held accountable for the neglect of a child that they know about, we'll continue to have the smallest of numbers being reported. Because I truly believe the numbers that we're dealing with are just the numbers that were reported. And there's still rather numbers that run into thousands of children who are neglected, who are abused, raped, and all sorts of things, and it's not reported because the adults hide it.
And what you say, I think for me, resonates with, conversations that we have around who in essence are we as Africans, right? Because the collective sort of forces us to return to our old saying of umuntu ngubuntu, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, and a child is raised within the context of a village, and that seems like something that we stray more and more away from the more we sort of become modernized and westernized as Africans.
I think it just shows that our moral fabric as a society doesn't exist anymore. And we really need to stop and start asking ourselves, who are we? What does we look like? What does we look like for the children that are coming out of our hands? And like I'm going to say this again, Bridget. The children that are being abused today, the 6-year-old Jocelyn Smiths of today, in 40 years' time, are the children we'll be expecting to be taking care of us. What have we taught them about taking care of somebody who's vulnerable and dependent on you? What's the template we've?
I think we're going to leave it with that question lingering in the air. It's a good moment for all of us to introspect on a very important conversation. Dr. Linda Ngubenkomo, thank you so much for your time today. She's the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, and that is how we wrap it up from our end. Aldrin St. Pierre is going to take you through from 3 until 6 o'clock as he slowly winds down to his final show on SAFM. And of course, we do know that the Reserve Bank governor is going to be giving us that update. It's anticipated to happen anytime from 3 o'clock. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again tomorrow.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
In your top stories at 3, 6 ANC councillors in KZN quit the party and stunning revelations in the AKA murder case. This is SAFM News. A very good afternoon. I am Luyanda Maume. We start with this now. 6 ANC councillors in the Mzumbe municipality on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast have resigned from the party and their council seats.